Have you ever poured a famous bourbon brand and wondered why people actually drink this stuff? America produces hundreds of bourbon expressions, yet most drinkers grab the same tired bottles their parents bought without realizing that the under $30 category includes everything from legitimate craft to marketing hype wearing a fancy label. Today I'm ranking 11 bourbons under $30, from overrated classics that coast on nostalgia to hidden gems that deliver $50 quality at budget pricing. Subscribe and let's pour into the truth about what's actually worth your liquor budget when you're not trying to impress anyone, just trying to drink good bourbon. Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 is the bottle everyone recognizes and almost no one questions, which is exactly why it lands at the bottom of this list. It isn't bourbon at all, it's Tennessee whiskey, filtered through charcoal in the Lincoln County process before it ever goes into the barrel. That extra step sands off some rough edges, but it also strips out a lot of the character that makes bourbon interesting. On paper, it looks fine, 80 proof, big brand, long history. But in the glass, there's a problem. The vanilla and caramel are there, yet the finish turns into a strange sour note that's hard to untaste once you notice it. In my own tasting, that same sour signature showed up as a negative whenever anything reminded me of Jack. The brand survives because it's smooth enough for cola and iconic enough to feel like a personality trait. As a mixer, that works. The soda hides the flaws. Neat or on ice though, the sour finish and cloying sweetness take over, and at about $22, you're mostly paying for the square bottle and the legend. Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 proves that most famous and most drinkable bourbon are two very different things, and in this case, it's not even bourbon. Jim Beam is technically where a lot of people start with bourbon, and in my blind test, it also happened to be where quality bottomed out. It scored 38 out of 100, dead last, because nothing about it stood out in a positive way. I picked it out easily and called it the only bad one in that lineup. On the nose, you get mostly heat and a hint of grain, but not much depth. The sip is thin and a little sharp, with generic sweetness and ethanol that vanish almost the second you swallow. I also caught a faint echo of that Jack Daniel's style sourness, just toned down, which isn't exactly the comparison you want. Beam moves millions of cases every year, and that's the real story. It's built to be everywhere, not to be memorable. It's the participation trophy of bourbon. Meets the legal definition, fills the shelf space, doesn't do anything wrong, but doesn't do anything worth talking about either. When bottles like Old Granddad 80 are sitting nearby for roughly $16 to $17 and scored 70 out of 100 in the same blind test, it's hard to argue for Beam as anything other than the one you buy when you don't know better yet. Four Roses Yellow. Label fooled me for about half a second in the blind, then that marker nose gave it away. I scored it 53 out of 100. Not offensive, not exciting, just very light and very forgettable. The whiskey smells young, ethanol and a chemical note that reminded me of permanent marker, with not much else going on. The texture in the mouth is actually nice and oily, but the flavor is faint and the finish is basically a fade to black. The high rye mash bill should mean spice and complexity, yet at 80 proof and relatively young age, those promises never show up. Bruzel's blind tasting landed it squarely in the middle too, so this isn't just my tongue being picky. Here's the issue. This sits around the $20 mark. Meanwhile, Old Granddad 80 hovers a few dollars lower and almost doubled its score in my blind test. Paying more money for less flavor and a nose that smells like someone uncapped a Sharpie near your glass isn't exactly a value play. Four Roses makes great bourbon at higher tiers, but Yellow Label feels like the rushed, cash flow version of what they actually do well. Old Crow 86 is the first bottle in this lineup that actually surprised me in a good way. Going into the blind, I expected it to be pure bottom shelf punishment. Instead, it landed at 66 out of 100 and felt like a genuine bargain pick. What stood out was the personality. The high rye mash bill gives it a little citrus pop and nuttiness. The nose has a bit of musty, dusty character I actually liked, and the palate has more flavor than the label or the price tag would suggest. The finish is short. This is still young whiskey, but it tastes like bourbon, not like flavored alcohol. This is the bottle you reach for when you're building cocktails and don't want to waste your good stuff, or when the budget is tight but your standards aren't. It usually sits around $14, and at that number it punches above its weight. The only real drawback is availability. It's one of those labels that appears and disappears depending on your market. If you see it on a shelf at that price, it's worth grabbing. Evan Williams Black is where cheap starts turning into smart. In my blind test, it scored 68 out of 100, taking second place in the lineup and immediately earning a spot on the buy again list. I guessed it correctly and literally said, I'm gonna have to renew this bottle. Heaven Hill gives this one a proper aging floor, and it shows. The nose delivers classic bourbon notes: vanilla, caramel, oak, without the harsh ethanol sting that showed up in Beam. The palate has real flavor, a thicker mouthfeel, and a finish that actually hangs around long enough to enjoy. The best part is how easy it is to live with. Handles at warehouse stores keep the effective price per pour very low, and you can find it almost anywhere bourbon is sold. I tend to see it around $14 for a 750 milliliter, and at that number it's hard to beat as a daily drinker. There is a ceiling. Old Grandad 80 scored slightly higher in the same blind test at a similar price, so Evan Williams Black ends up as the silver medalist in that particular race. But when availability matters, and it does, this is the workhorse bottle you can recommend without hesitation. Benchmark Bonded is the first bottle in this list that feels built for bourbon nerds on a budget. It carries the Bottled in Bond stamp, which means at least 4 years old, 100 proof, 1 distillery, 1 season. On paper, that's everything you want to see when you're trying to separate real standards from marketing fluff. In the glass, it's clean, balanced, and undeniably well made. The nose gives you vanilla, light oak, and a little sweetness, without a lot of alcohol bite for the proof. The palate delivers solid, straightforward bourbon character with decent body, and a finish that sticks around long enough to feel satisfying. The problem is not what it does, it's what it doesn't do. There's no real hook, nothing weird, nothing wild, nothing you'll be thinking about the next day. It tastes like a control sample of bourbon, more than a distinct personality. At about $24, that lands it in an awkward zone where it's good, but surrounded by great. If you like Buffalo Trace's house profile and want something a bit stronger without paying premium prices, Benchmark Bonded checks that box. But when bottles like Evan Williams, Bottled in Bond, and Wild Turkey 101 live in the same price neighborhood with more character, this one becomes the competent middleweight that gets edged out on fight night. From here on out, every bottle on this list earns its spot. Subscribe and stick around, because these next picks aren't just cheap for what they are. They're genuinely good bourbons that just happen to be under 30 bucks. Early Times Bottled in Bond is one of those bottles that looks like an automatic win on stats alone. It's BIB, it's 100 proof, and it usually comes in a 1-liter bottle, which means you're getting more whiskey than most competitors for about $22. On the shelf, that's an easy pickup. The liquid itself is solid. You get classic bourbon notes on the nose: vanilla, caramel, a little oak, and a palate that's full enough to remind you this is proper bonded whiskey, not an entry-level afterthought. The finish has some length and warmth without turning harsh, and in a blind pour, most people would be perfectly happy with what's in the glass. Where it gets messy is identity. Early Times used to be its own thing. Now the Bottled in Bond version is sourced from MGP and bottled under the Early Times label. Technically, it still hits all the legal requirements, but for drinkers who remember old Early Times, it can feel like someone else wearing a familiar face. For a viewer who just wants good bourbon at a good price, that history may not matter at all. But standing next to Evan Williams' Bottled in Bond, which is made start to finish by the same distillery that built its reputation, Early Times becomes the slightly more complicated choice. Great pour for the money, slightly fuzzy story behind it. Larceny Small Batch is where this list takes a hard turn in style. Up to now, almost everything has leaned on rye for spice. Larceny swaps rye out for wheat, and that single grain change transforms the whole experience. This is the soft edges bourbon in the lineup. In the glass, it delivers exactly what a wheated profile promises: honey, vanilla, and bakery-style sweetness on the nose, followed by a smooth, almost creamy palate The spice is gentle, the oak is rounded off, and the finish lingers with warmth rather than bite. It's the kind of bourbon you hand to someone who says, "I like whiskey, but I don't like when it hurts." Experts consistently rate it as one of the best wheated bourbons under $30, beating out some much louder names. At around $22, it gives you a legitimate taste of the wheated world without chasing allocations or secondary prices. For my palate, which leans toward high rye bottles like Old Granddad, Larceny is very good, but different. It's not trying to compete with spicy, aggressive bourbons. It's offering an alternative lane. If you want smooth, approachable, dessert-leaning bourbon without paying Weller money, this is where you start. Evan Williams. Bottled in Bond feels like the moment Heaven Hill says, "Okay, now we're serious." It takes everything that works in Evan Williams Black and turns the volume up. Higher proof, guaranteed 4-year minimum age, and the legal structure of BIB behind it. The difference in the glass is obvious. The nose is richer and darker, with more oak, deeper caramel, and a stronger sense of real bourbon than the entry-level version. On the palate, the 100 proof gives you weight and presence. Flavors hang around longer. The finish brings more warmth and a little pepper, instead of just fading away. This is the bottle you move to when you've been drinking the cheap stuff and want to taste what a small step up in proof and structure does. At about $20, it's firmly in no-brainer upgrade territory for anyone who already likes Evan Williams Black. So why isn't it in the top 2? Because the next bottles don't just improve on the stats, they redefine what you can expect for the money. Evan Williams, bottled in Bond, is excellent value and an easy recommendation. But it's the pre-game to the main event rather than the headliner itself. Wild Turkey 101 is the bottle that bourbon reviewers keep coming back to whenever the question is, what's the best budget bourbon period? It's the consensus pick in blind tastings for a reason. This is where the value end of the market starts feeling genuinely premium. In the glass, 101 proof hits a sweet spot, big enough to carry serious flavor, tame enough that you don't have to baby it with water. The nose shows honey, baking spice, a little citrus, and toasted oak. The palate brings rich caramel, vanilla, rye spice, and a long, warming finish that feels like it should cost more than it does. What sets Wild Turkey 101 apart is consistency and character. It doesn't taste generic, it tastes like itself. Reviewers who taste hundreds of bottles a year routinely rank it above names like Buffalo Trace and Maker's Mark in blind lineups, and it holds its own against whiskeys that are $10 to $15 more. It usually sits around $23, and at that price it's very hard to argue against. The only reason it isn't number 1 on this list is personal data. My own blind test didn't include it, but it did include the bottle that earned the top spot. Wild Turkey 101 is the expert's champion. The next one is my champion. Old Granddad 80 Proof is the quiet little bottle that walked into a blind test and embarrassed the competition. No hype, no allocation drama, just a dusty-looking label that scored 70 out of 100 and took first place in my lineup. What makes that result so wild is the context. This is 80 proof, the same proof as Jim Beam Regular and Four Roses Yellow Label, yet it delivered more flavor, more spice, and the only truly satisfying finish in the entire blind. I called it the strongest of them all, and specifically pointed out that it was the only one with a decent finish. The secret here is the high rye mash bill and the way it's put together. On the nose, you get bright rye spice over caramel and vanilla, with enough backbone to feel like a real bourbon, despite the lower proof. The palate is punchy for 80 proof, with that rye character driving flavor instead of heat, and the finish hangs on just long enough to make you want another sip. The kicker is the price. Old Granddad 80 usually sits around $17, which means it beat out bottles at similar or higher prices in blind scoring while being one of the cheapest on the table. That's the definition of a value overperformer. It's also the bottle that made me immediately want to hunt down Old Granddad 114, the higher proof version that still squeaks in under $30 in some markets. When a budget bottle makes you excited to explore an entire line, that's a very good sign. Old Granddad 80 is the kind of result blind tasting exists to reveal. a label you might ignore on the shelf that quietly outdrinks the famous names once you stop looking at the front of the bottle and start listening to what's in the glass. The under $30 bourbon category separates marketing from substance, proving that some famous brands coast on nostalgia, while hidden gems deliver legitimate quality at prices that seem too good to be true. The worst are technically bourbon, but spiritually empty, commodity alcohol wearing heritage labels. The best are proof that craft and value aren't mutually exclusive when distilleries prioritize quality over profit margins. Choose the bottles that earned their place through blind taste validation rather than advertising budgets. Your bar cart deserves bourbon that tastes good rather than bourbon that just looks good on the shelf. Hit subscribe for more bourbon truth about what's actually worth your liquor budget, and drop a comment about which budget bourbon surprised you most. Until next time, keep your standards high and your bourbon honest.